Here's what you get with this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
You get money, it's like a Band-Aid. Whatever money we get from whatever source, if we don't use that money wisely, we're just going to squander it. And then we're also going to have to pay it back. So we may as well use it wisely. So not only will we squander it, we're going to pivot our business and we're not going to have to pay it back for the most part. That goes doubly as much for the Paycheck Protection Program, which has requirements in order for there to be loan forgiveness.
Today on the Nice Guys podcast, fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles. Oh, no, that's The Princess Bride. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by Turnkey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Nice Guy community, Lauren Cohen is here today, and she's here to talk about all things pivoting. She's an international legal expert and business continuity strategist who specializes in funding solutions and sound pivoting strategies for business owners looking to grow in today's sometimes ultra-confusing environment. Lauren is a best-selling author and a regular podcast guest, and today she's one of the nice guys. Lauren, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thank you. I like being one of the nice guys, especially as a lawyer. It's not often we're referred to as the nice guys.
That's a reputation that doesn't precede you because you actually are a very nice person. You were very patient in the beginning stages here while we worked through some technology challenges, and you actually not only do you know what you're doing, but you did it in nice fashion. So thank you for participating in that part of it.
Of course. Thank you for helping me. Now I know better for next time. I didn't even realize that I wasn't using my microphone properly.
That's
so
okay.
Thank you for your help.
You know, I'm a podcasting hammer. Everything looks like a podcasting nail to me. So whenever I hear somebody that might have quality standards that of sound quality that might not be quite up to snuff, I'm like, hey, do you know that this is what's going on right now? So pardon me for putting my 2 cents in where I probably wasn't deserved. So Lauren, your timing is perfect to come on the show today because one of the things that you do, which is your specialty, is really that pivoting strategy idea. So why don't you share a little bit about how you fit into today's really confusing world with everything, you know, people being behind the scenes, people being shuttered. So why don't you share a little bit about why your pivoting strategies are so timely right now?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Doug. So first of all, I'm glad you can't see me because I'm making some funny expressions. So I'm glad you can't see them. But so I'm an international legal expert and business continuity strategist. And when all of this started happening, I realized that I needed to pivot my business slightly. And what that means is I have a system that I created called Scale Up Checkup. It's a 7-point inspection of a business that covers 7 areas. And one of the 7 areas is funding and capitalization. Another one being legal and compliance, and another one being business planning. And then, of course, there's a whole range of others. But the point is that those 3 kind of mesh together into this whole mess. And I call it a balagan. Balagan in Hebrew and Polish and Russian, for that matter, means a big mess. And all of what's going on right now, both personally and professionally in our world, is a big balagan. And we have to wade through it. And so I realized that there was a need for me to step up and take one of my 7 elements, my 7 essential foundational elements, and find solutions for business owners that were struggling. And most of us are struggling, maybe not those of us in the online world, but even in the online world, people like us, for example, we have to pivot to speak to business owners differently. We have to pivot to know how to network differently. We have to pivot ourselves and our businesses to restructure and reorganize. And as we're doing that, I realized that there was a need not only for funding, but to help companies that were struggling with figuring out how to pivot. Here's an example. Yesterday, a photographer joined my Facebook group. And she wanted to post, and of course I'm reviewing all the posts because there's a lot of promotion going on. And she wanted to post about how she's struggling and how can she keep her photography studio open. So I said to her, have you considered doing virtual sessions to help people learn how to do photography at home? Have you considered creating courses? Like I gave her 4 or 5 options, and she's like, I don't want any of that. I'm like, okay, well, like I didn't even really know what to say. I said, well,
Right, right.
I'm really sorry. Like I felt terribly because she's just a closed book and she wants her photography studio with people coming. Another guy, a hypnotist. I said to him, have you considered doing, like, obviously everything's about virtual sessions right now. Have you considered doing virtual sessions? I said, have you considered a group? Have you considered, he said, my clients just want to see me in person. I'm like, okay, those are closed-minded people that aren't really going to be successful at pivoting because they're not even open to it. However, people like you and I realize that there is demand for services, that it's just changed. It's a new normal, whatever that might be when this is over. And if we can successfully pivot our businesses and support our clients through those pivots, then our clients can be successful and we can as well. And I think that that's really important to understand. So a lot of people are struggling with financial issues and how to support and capitalize their business, which is part of why being well capitalized is so important when you're setting up a business. And it's just a crazy, crazy time. And I think that if we support ourselves and our clients, we can help them build success, which in turn translates to our own success. So pivoting, they call me the princess of pivot. And I really love finding solutions. Every single business has a solution available to it. Whether you're willing to listen or not is another story. I can't control that. It's like the 12-step program. We can't control what other people do. We can only control ourselves, right?
Oh, totally. So, and you strike upon a really interesting chord because, there are we've all been, inside for the last month or 6 weeks or so in trying to figure out how our business actually pivots. And I look at our space in the podcasting space and just think, man, things have been busy. I mean, people have been calling, people are very interested in hearing. And the idea of somebody just saying, my clients want to meet with me face to face. Yes, I know that. And I would like to have $1.5 million in the bank. And the reality of it is right now, we just don't. So we have to work within the environment that we work within. What do you say to somebody that, or maybe you don't, what is the expression? The teacher will appear when the student is ready. What do you say to somebody that just for the sake of just, this is the way I want it, this is how it's always been, I'm not going to change? What do you say to those people? Because they have to wake up and become conscious at some point, don't they?
Well, they do, or they're going to perish. And that's why I named my group Pivot or Perish. And the reality, and I don't mean them physically, I mean their businesses, okay? So I'm an immigration and corporate expert. So I specialize in helping businesses come into the US and expand from the US, but from all over the world. So we have an added dimension to the challenge because the people, our clients, immigration lawyers, and I work with tons of them. I'm an advisor to other immigration lawyers because a lot of immigration lawyers don't really completely understand or want to understand the business side of things. So these clients are here, they're on business visas, right? They have, not only is their business at risk, their whole visa and ability to stay in the US is at risk. And some of them are still not willing to pivot. And you talk to them and you're like, but if your business goes marginal, you're done. Okay, you're done. And they just are not open to listening. And unfortunately, I wish that I had a dialogue to have with them. But the reality is it's kind of like when somebody doesn't realize the value that you're offering to them and choose to work with you in a sales environment or in a networking environment or whatever. They just are very closed off. And those are the people that you just can't help. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And we can only do so much to open doors. And at the end of the day, if people are not willing to go through them, there's really not a lot we can do. And I think I finally realized that I kind of have to back off and walk away in order to let them figure out what they want to figure out. Maybe they'll come back when they realize, hey, I've got no choice, because at the end of the day, they really don't.
So talk to me about some of the first steps, because I think oftentimes people don't make the change because they see, oh, geez, it's a huge, even though it may appear from a vocally to be a small pivot, from a business model perspective, it may be a whole different thing. I'm a guy that's a photographer and all my business is studio work. And now you're telling me I got to bring it inside. What are some of the easy steps? And then the money trail, it just goes really cold if I now have to pivot and change my whole business model. And now I have to figure out how to market that. Tell me about some of the initial steps that you would encourage somebody to take so that maybe they can look at it from a perspective of, I have money coming in the door today, or I can have money coming in the door fairly quickly. Or if that's not an option, what are some of their financial options that they can go to, in your opinion?
There's so many financial and other options available now. As you know, as I mentioned, and I think you're a part of my Facebook group. I set up a Facebook group to provide my growing list and my growing tribe with access to free resources. I will be building coaching programs from there, but those free resources, there's a lot of grants available. Yesterday, I finalized a U.S. grant and resource guide that I created, not grant and resource, loan and grant resource guide, which I created. It's $27. It's just a very inexpensive way to get access to a listing of grants from all over the country, and loans from all over the country. Like there's Google grants, there's Facebook grants, there's Amazon grants. Now there's a U.S. Chamber of Commerce grant. So there's a lot of money available. The most important thing I think that people can do is take the time to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody like myself that really understands not only the business side, but how to get the right funding for that business and figure out how to put those pieces together, because you need a strategy. And without a strategy, you're going to get money and you're not going to know what to do with it. It's a Band-Aid. And if you use it as a Band-Aid, you're never going to be successful. Even the SBA money that came to many of my clients, and there will be more. So stay tuned. Don't give up if you didn't get it yet. I haven't given up.
Gosh.
I didn't get it yet, and I applied way.
I haven't given up, but I've applied now to 2 different sources and all of the other grants. And I'm like, what am I waiting? Is it actually going to happen? Will it happen?
It is going to happen. Yes. I spoke to the congressman this morning. We're just waiting for some finalization. But the reality is, even when you get that money, Doug, it doesn't mean you're just like, you can go to like Disney World, which you can't do anyway, but you can't just spend it wherever you want. There are specific requirements and specific ways in which you're allowed to spend even the loan allocation. And you have to allocate the money properly, or you're going to not only potentially have no loan forgiveness, but you may even be penalized for misusing it. So these are important things, because not only do you get the money, but it's how you use that money to grow your business. What an
interesting perspective. And again, in applying for these loans, I was not at all, and I'm sure many of our community members who are just trying to figure out, okay, where is that next paycheck coming from? Very similar to our company. We have a team of almost 10 people now, and it's like, hey, we need to keep I need to keep my team. So I'm paying them actually before I'm even paying myself. And I keep thinking, what would I'm not going to the movies. But I wouldn't really know what this, I'm sure there's some guidelines, but of course it's going into things like rent, business expenses, payroll, even payroll for me, if I can afford it, so that I can be able to do things like keep a roof over my head too.
Like eat, right? Exactly. No big deal. Just eat, right? Have a roof. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So somebody comes to you. Oh, by the way, Nice Guy Community. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes, because Lauren she mentioned her Facebook group, which in the beginning of this interview, I actually signed up. Very easy to sign up for. Looking through a bunch of the articles and a bunch of the advice that Lauren is sharing on the Facebook group. Extremely timely. And very, very much to your advantage. I would highly encourage you to join that group. We'll put a link in the show notes for that group. I also understand that you have some other stuff that you want to share with our community too, in terms of just resources and ways that you can help them just pivot at this time.
Yes, it's really important, because the funding sessions that I'm offering, it's not just about funding. It's called the Funding and Pivoting Strategy Session, and there's a reason for that. Because as I say, if you get money, it's like a Band-Aid. And if we don't use whatever money we get, from whatever source, if we don't use that money wisely, we're just going to squander it. And then we're also going to have to pay it back. So we may as well use it wisely. So not only will we squander it, we're going to pivot our business, and we're not going to have to pay it back for the most part. That goes doubly as much for the Paycheck Protection Program, which has requirements in order for there to be loan forgiveness. And you have to be super careful. And paying yourself, Doug, is totally cool. I'm the only employee of my company. Everybody else is a 1099. Now, granted, I haven't received any allocation yet, but it's totally legit to pay yourself, because if you don't make money, how can you run your business, right?
Yep. I'm so excited about the topic you're talking about, because I think it's so timely and so perfect to discuss, because many people have no idea, not only just about the ideas for funding, but funding right now is the topic of the day. However, the
Right.
idea of being ready to pivot at any point should be something that you should kind of keep in the front of your brain, not in the back of your brain. How do I do, not that we ever want this thing to happen again, but
Correct.
if even something minor like this happens, the
Oh
ability
God.
to be able to pivot at a moment's notice just to a slightly different environment, like, hey, let's talk about taking your meetings from face to face to online, not because of a virus, but how about, hey, you're put on in this, you've been hired to go on an assignment overseas, and now you want to be able to create your meetings through Zoom, or do a virtual meeting, or anything like that, or create an online course. Though, are those the kind of things that you can help kind of direct people when it comes to building their business?
100%. So my regular day job, if you can call it that, is helping people invest, live, work, and play anywhere in the world. I am an international legal. I'm an international lawyer and legal expert, and I do work with online and offline businesses, helping them move and expand and grow and create a global footprint. That's part of why I'm offering this service, because there's so many people that really need my help right now, so that they can get the structure in place so that they can expand and grow going into the future. This is only temporary. We can't just pivot our business for now. We need to pivot our business for future success and be able to achieve that future success and access global opportunities. It's really, I can't underscore that enough. And people are saying, well, what if, the U.S. immigration is closed? It doesn't matter. You're not moving tomorrow. You have to set the trajectory for the future. And these are the things that I work on. As a matter of fact, I work with a lot of business owners, some of whom that's how we connected, that have or are getting visas in place to come and go from and to the US without ever having to move. But this gives them legitimacy in running their business in the US and having a base of operations in the US, which so many people want and will continue to want going forward. It's not like this is going, granted, where we'll have a new normal, but this COVID-19 is not going to last forever. One day we will be back to whatever the new normal is, and we have to be ready for that. It doesn't mean that you should do it the day after you get back to normal. You have to plan now. We should have been planning before, but of course we didn't expect this. But the better that people were, the more streams of income people had, and the better people were prepared for eventualities, the better that they're going through this, and their resilience is that much stronger.
All right, let's come up with just for the sake of calling it something else, let's come up with a business pivot toolkit just for a moment. So let's think about this. This is an opportunity for us to work on a joint venture project together. So, hey, we met at JVology, so this makes a lot of sense. So let's just work on this for a quick second, because I think there's some level of importance in understanding that while you don't have to be ready necessarily for ultimate disaster and mayhem, you should be ready for even a slight ripple in what's going on. So in an ultimate pivot toolbox, what kind of things would you have? You'd obviously have some cash reserves in the bank. That would probably be some advice, and you can probably, I'm sure, share some tools and tips for that. What other things would be in that toolbox so that people are ready in the event that this type of environment reoccurs?
Definitely, we need business insurance, even if the business insurance doesn't cover off certain, acts of God or catastrophes like this one. But you need business insurance. You need to have a company, a corporation in place, because right now, if you don't have an entity in place and your business ends up struggling, it's going to be you who's personally responsible. And at least if you have an entity, that'll separate you. You need strong, uh, heavy capitalization, like you said, not just cash on hand, but also, are you well capitalized? Do you have sources for money? Do you have a line of credit? Get that in place. Um, Figure out about your systems so that things can continue to operate. Let's say that you get sick. Do you have disability insurance? There's so many elements of this. It kind of goes back to the 7 elements that I deal with in my Scale Up Checkup. Do you have a business plan? Obviously, your business plan has changed. How do you modify it? What's your mission? What's your vision? Do you have an exit strategy? How are you financially prepared? Have you filed your tax returns? Maybe you have to adjust how you deal with that. Do you have a bookkeeper? If you don't, get one. That's super important. I work with
Wow.
an amazing bookkeeping and tax team because if you don't have your books in order, you're screwed right now. Do
Yeah.
you have all your licenses in place? Yesterday, I think, or the day before, I applied for the PayPal, which you may have done, the
Yeah.
PayPal paycheck protection, because it was taking too long through my bank, and they asked for
You sound like
an occupational license.
exactly like me, man. That's so funny. It's like, hey, Wells
Right?
Fargo is just taking way too long, and I even hear that they
Oh,
have
Wells Fargo. Let's not even go there. Don't even go down that road.
All right, I
But
won't.
yeah, but a lot of home-based businesses say, like yesterday, I spoke with somebody who does yoga. I said, well, you can apply it through PayPal, but you need an occupational license. I don't need one. I said, why is that? Well, because I work from home. I said, it doesn't matter if you work from home. You need an occupational license. You need a business license. I don't care where you work from. Everybody needs a business license. And that was a requirement for the PayPal app, as you saw, right?
Yep.
Wasn't a requirement through my bank. My bank required different things. So it's just a matter of like having these things lined up. And these are the elements. Branding and marketing, super important. If you have a strong brand, you're going to survive through this. Do you have a good marketing plan? How are you developing that? Do you have good joint venture or affiliate partners? What kind of systems are you using? Okay, I'm getting on my soapbox, but as you
No,
can
this
see,
is great. This is great. I mean, you've just gone through a laundry list of things that I think that most people, now I'm not saying people take their marketing plan or their sales plan or their bookkeeper for granted, but I am saying that most people at a moment's notice collecting all of that information, maybe not the easiest thing to do. And it would be really smart to have this information in one place, or to at least know that you have it taken care of. If nothing else, just know what you're missing. Go through the checklist of the 20 things that you just went through, and okay, I have 15 of those, but I don't have 5. My goal over the next 12 months is now to put the next 5 into play. Those are the kind of things that prepare us for being able to apply for money quickly, or being able to pivot at a moment's notice. And I love the way you literally just listed all of those things. I mean, extremely important to know those.
yes, exactly. Exactly. It's a big deal. And it's funny because that's my whole scale up checkup system, is those 7 elements that are now part of the business pivot toolkit that you and I are building. So, so, so yeah.
It may be, I'll throw my hat into the ring here. It may be, what's your online strategy? What is it to build an online course, to create virtual events, to have a podcast in place, to have a production company in place to handle all of those components. I mean, I look at those kind of things. I'm thinking, I've been running an online business for the last 5 years, not realizing it really is an online business, just thinking I'm just doing it remotely. Well, no, this is actually an online business. I very rarely meet with my clients. While I would love to say my business hasn't skipped a beat, which it has, I am proud to say that, look, a lot of people are now jumping into the online space clueless, and at least I am not a cluistic. I have some clue, so
Right.
I'm doing fine where I
Exactly.
am right now.
Thank God, because not all of us are.
So let's talk about 2 things before we wrap up. First of all, let me give a plug for your Facebook group, and then I want to talk a little bit about the checkup that you do. So talk about the Facebook group, the importance of that, and again, what your goal was when you created that, and now you have over 700 members as a part of that group. Why don't you share a little bit about what
Mhm.
the idea behind that Facebook group was?
So I started doing webinars for all of this funding stuff, like offering webinars to train people about what is available and how to access money and so on. And I realized that there was a need for more than that, an ongoing relationship, and it's not only about just setting up an email campaign. So I wanted to be engaged, and a Facebook group seemed like the natural place for that. So I'm creating strategic relationships, and my strategic partners are able to post in there. I'm doing some lives. I'd love to do one with you, getting people to understand kind of what's going on and how to protect their business on the different levels. And we're just growing a tribe and growing relationships. And there's a lot of networking going on. I'm also a realtor with eXp Realty, and I've had 2 people join my team from that Facebook group. And I don't solicit in there. It's just that it's relationships. And that's really what it's all about. Because at the end of the day, relationships are what drive business, right?
Totally. And it again, I'm looking at a number of the different posts in here. There's a lot of great stuff in here just about, okay, I think part of it is where are we in the current state of the world? So there's stuff about that. And there's also things about, moving forward with your business, regardless of whether we're dealing with a COVID world or not, just in regular. Okay, what do we do to advance our business to the next level? So I think that's really good. Now, spend a moment talking about your checkup, because again, I think part of what is important is let's get a reality check. People, Nice Guy community, get into this checkup, because I think it would be a very valuable meeting time for you to spend 30 minutes with Lauren. So why don't you share a little bit about what you covered during that time?
So we kind of do it. Well, we do a deep dive into where you are in your business, what you were doing before this mess happened, what have you done to pivot, what opportunities are there to pivot, suggesting ways to pivot your business. Have you accessed any funding? If you have, how do we need to allocate that? If you have not, what is available to you? How to access funding? How much do you actually need? I have strategic partners that can help bring your credit up if we need to do that. And also potentially figuring out the amount that you actually need, because not everybody needs what they think they need, and they may need more than they think. So it's doing a little bit of an analysis of your business. It's not going to be a comprehensive analysis in a half hour, but we will get some ideas going and generate the discussion and start the ball rolling towards short and long-term success for you.
So those in our Nice Guy community that want to take advantage of the funding and pivoting strategy session, there's going to be a link right there. It is a paid session. We want to make sure Lauren is a professional. She knows that she's a professional. I know she's a professional also. Please don't go to that link unless you are prepared to take out a credit card and pay. I think it's a very valuable toolkit that you're going to, checklist that you're going to get. It's the funding and pivoting strategy session. And I can promise you, just knowing and meeting Lauren back at JVology, I know she knows what she's doing. She's got the weight of responsibility on her shoulders with our good friend Jay Fazette and getting him into the U.S. And he would not rely upon
Oh
her.
my God!
Unless I knew.
Stress.
There's a lot of stress about it,
Right?
I'm sure. So
Yeah.
Lauren, thank you
And
very
right
much.
now the doors are closed. He's gonna. I hope we submitted his application, because the doors are gonna close, I think, tomorrow.
Oh,
And
boy.
everybody's like, "Oh my God, did you get our stuff in?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter if we did. You're not gonna get your interview." But anyway,
Right.
everybody's there's a lot of craziness going on. Let's just say, not with Jay, but in general in the world. And immigration is just one of those areas.
Once it all calms down, everything will go back to life as whatever the new normal is going to be. So let's all prepare you for the new normal. Lauren, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your message and your expertise today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Doug.
Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the power of understanding where you are in this world. And let's make sure we take care of you so that you're ready for this pivot. Special thanks to Lauren Cohen. All of her information, including access to her Facebook group and to her strategy session, will be right there in the show notes. Just click the link over there and you will see it. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. Have fun storming the castle, boys. Yeah, I don't mean to pry, but the Nice Guys don't by chance happen to have 6 fingers on their right hand, do they?